channel right now. If any government official, whether they're a senator or whether they worked for the Department of Justice or the Federal Bureau of Investigation, it really doesn't matter whether they're a current or former U.S. official, which is the anonymous human being cited in so many endless Washington Post and New York Times articles about Trump. If it's a current or former U.S. official that broke the law, whether it's the new California senator or former agents, if they broke the law, if they lied about intelligence, for example, and tried to set up and frame Trump, they will be indicted in a special counsel created by Pam Bondi. There could be numerous special counsels. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. The new congressman from California is still Trump's greatest, you could say, political opponent. And Newsweek, Adam Schiff questions if Trump's attorney general will go after those who indicted him. The Hill, Schiff on Smith decision to dismiss Trump case is a serious mistake. ABC News, what Pam Bondi, Trump's new AG pick, has said about investigating DOJ prosecutors and others, including potentially California's congressman. So hit subscribe to this channel right now. Sorry for the wait, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your patience. To my super chat, Paul Bartlett, thank you so very much. You will hear the legal analysis in a second. But I want to just explain a couple of things. The next 4, 5, 6 months are going to be what Democrats and media have called a reckoning. They love to use that term when political events go their way, even if these political or social events lead to unrest, chaos, mayhem, property damage. They use the word reckoning. This, however, will be actually about the rule of law. The rule of law, which Democrats have touted for so long, has been twisted and eviscerated in a very foolish attempt at trying to set up and frame Trump. He did not commit a crime. So number one, before we get to the analysis in a second from Pam Bondi and others, I'll give you a quick recap of what will take place in the next 3 to 4 to 5 months. Pam Bondi will be nominated Attorney General. John Ratcliffe is already the head of Central Intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard is the Office of Director of National Intelligence. Okay, so she's the ODNI chief. You're going to have a new Federal Bureau of Investigation director. Okay, you'll probably have a new National Security Agency director. All of the intelligence that was used against Trump that has been hidden, so the classified intel, the information that perhaps sheds light onto how government officials came to the conclusion that Trump was a Kremlin operative or that he could be working with the Kremlin. That will be declassified by people like John Ratcliffe, who is now the head of Central Intelligence. So number two, in addition to all of these new government officials that are going to work with Trump to ensure that his political vision is implemented, which is what Merrick Garland and Eric Holder did. They were held in contempt of Congress. Okay, so they were so loyal to Democrats, they were held in contempt of Congress. But number two or number three, you're going to get declassified, almost certainly declassified information from people like John Ratcliffe, who you will hear in a second. This will lead to indictments, ladies and gentlemen, from a special counsel. So very likely the special counsel is going to indict California's senator, very likely because almost certainly he lied about Trump being an operative of the Kremlin. Many government officials, many journalists, many political operatives, many attorneys lied, many intel agents lied about Trump working with another country. Okay? Number four, there are statutes, numerous statutes, that state you cannot lie and utilize your government position to imprison political rivals, for example. So let's go ahead, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Paul Bartlett, thank you so very, very much. Let's go ahead and get started really quickly. This is what Pam Bondi has stated in the past, years back, about Adam Schiff.
And abuse of power are the articles of impeachment. Joining me right now is Special Advisor to President Trump and former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. Great to see you, Pam. Thanks very much for being here this morning.
Too. Thanks, Maria. You too.
What should we expect now as this moves into the Judiciary Committee? We had Matt Gaetz on earlier, who said that he's going to be hearing from witnesses today who are academics. So my question is, what do the academics have to do with this phone call between the president and the president of Ukraine?
Well, and no offense to academics. I went to law school. I loved my con law professor, but we're going to hear a lot of professors this morning, and they're going to opine on what the president did. I think you're going to hear a lot of great cross-examination from Republicans.
By the way, really quickly, when Democrats say leading historians, academics and professors agree with us, experts agree with us. Number one, I have the utmost respect for professors and academics and teachers, and I have had, thank God, in my life, like actually legendary professors, really, like the most wonderful, the most respected professors, they were absolutely brilliant. That being said, during the impeachment trial, they found liberal Democrats who happened to also be professors. Okay, they could have found conservative professors who disagreed with the whole farce and theatrical performance of impeaching Trump over a ridiculous phone call that had nothing to do with national security. If it did have something to do with national security, it was Trump who decided foreign policy. It wasn't Democrats and people who thought that he shouldn't engage in his own foreign policy as president, which is exactly why he defeated Clinton. In a democracy, you choose a president based on the foreign policy that you would rather have, as opposed to the other alternative or the competitor. So when Trump defeated Clinton, all of these people said, why is he changing foreign policy? Well, obviously he's altering foreign policy pertaining to certain countries. He won. That's why you change the power structure or presidents or the executive branch every 4 years. If that's why you have the ability in a presidential contest to alter or change the course of the direction of the country, the course of foreign policy. Why do you think he's changing foreign policy? Because people wanted that. But anyway, let's continue.
Talking about their bias to begin with. But you know what? Why do we even need that? And here's the report, okay? This report is 300 pages that the House released. 300 pages. You know what it omits? The words, I presumed, I assumed. This is based on hearsay. He told me, she told me. That's all out of this report, and they put it in here as fact. 300 pages. This has been rigged from day one, and as you know, Maria, Nadler is going to be heading this whole thing up today. And what did we find out about him? 2 years ago in the New York Times, 2 years ago, he said he is best positioned as a scholar to take on President Trump and impeach him 2 years ago, before any of this junk, and it is junk, came up. It's a sham process. It's been rigged from the beginning. And I can't wait to hear the cross-exam today from our great Republican members.
Well, it's pretty incredible to me, though, that they are moving forward with it based on what you're calling hearsay. I mean, do you have anybody that you've heard from who actually was on the call? I mean, the president released the transcript, and we know what the transcript said. How is this taking such life?
Taking life because of people like Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and Nadler. That's why it's taking life. And they have been intent, before our president was even sworn into office, 2 days after he was elected, to impeach him. They've been talking about finding a way to impeach him, and they don't have anything, and they're not going to give up on this, but we're going to fight back, and we know the president did nothing wrong. Two people were on that call, President Trump and President Zelensky. And what did they both say? There was no quid pro quo.
Right.
The president did nothing wrong. Ukraine didn't even know aid was being withheld, and aid was withheld from many, many countries because of the intense corruption. After President Zelensky was in office for a while, what do we know? The country started cleaning itself up. Parliament took place. He replaced bad people. He did the right things, and the aid was ultimately released. And by the way, without any investigation ever being opened.
Is the president
a witch hunt?
Is the president planning to send anybody to any of these hearings this week? Is it?
They took a phone call, okay, and it was California's senator now that led the charge to impeach Trump. They took a phone call, a benign phone call, and they said that Trump tried to pressure an ally to investigate his direct political rivals. Hunter's laptop, had we known, and I think we already knew about Hunter's laptop, but had the world known about Hunter and Joe, is really Joe's laptop, with alleged bribery and graft, had we known that, there would have been zero impeachment with the first impeachment. The whole first impeachment was based on the absurd notion that Trump was trying to investigate his political rivals, when his political rivals not only were investigating him, Democrats were accusing Trump of what they were doing to him. And again, it's like the average Democrat that voted for Harris, they don't care about any of this. In addition to inflation and endless military quagmires and all of these, it's not the border. These are not concerns. Trump's personality is a major concern. I'm not being facetious. They would rather, Trump's personality is a national security concern for the majority of people who chose Kamala Harris. It's like, I'm not being... That's how they view politics, Democrats. So, like inflation, interest rates, the border, endless military, quagmires, they take a backseat to Trump's personality or all the things he's alleged to have done. So you've had 8 years of this indoctrination where people actually believe that he was impeached for withholding military aid to a country. He actually not only gave the military aid, he gave more military aid than President Obama. And then when he left, the country was invaded under Biden's watch while Democrats were in charge. Just like other countries were invaded while President Obama was in charge. And in the 4 years of Trump, we didn't have invasions. So, again, the indoctrination was led by a number of leading Democrats. And it was true that it was warranted for Trump to be suspicious. There was possible bribery and graft within a laptop that Joe and Hunter owned, or that Joe was, implicated to be part of the whole thing, okay? The whole thing with the bribery and graft and the laptop and the 50 Intel officials who lied through their teeth is that they were going to bat and trying to defend Democrats. Okay? Trump doesn't have that luxury with 50 Intel officials to lie on his behalf. He doesn't need it. Anyway, let's continue. The bottom line is the first impeachment was based on the absurd notion there's no reason to investigate Biden. We know now from years of reporting by the New York Post and the Daily Mail, two publications, especially the Post, that should have gotten Pulitzer Prizes. Okay, but the Pulitzer Prizes are only for people who investigate Trump. But we know now that Trump's suspicion was warranted, and he should never have been impeached.
Better to just ignore it or just have a representative in that room?
No, we have great members of the House Judiciary who are going to be there. This is a sham process from day one.
Yeah.
And why would we participate in it? Also, the president's in NATO. Maria, you've been talking about all the great things that he's doing in NATO. And to do this when a president is in foreign land, meeting with world leaders, doing some of the most important work he can do for our country. They are holding impeachment hearings. It's outrageous. It should outrage every American. Also that, as you've talked about in the past, USMCA, it's sitting on Nancy Pelosi's desk, right, collecting dust. It could bring 176,000 jobs and billions of dollars to our country. USMCA. We could go on.
Yeah.
NDAA.
It seems
everything.
Well, definitely they're leaving a lot on the table, and I think that's what happened when they went home for Thanksgiving. That they faced the wrath of constituents who said, "What are you doing for me? What have you done for me lately? And what have you been working on the last 2 months?" And it's like squat. You don't have USMCA, you don't have the prescription drug plan. I mean.
Democrats who aren't happy with this and are not going to vote for it. Their constituents don't want it. They don't want it. They want to be focusing on things that are important to the American people.
So this is the new Attorney General. Very different from Jeff Sessions. Isn't she like so much better? She's wonderful. And she's even like, I would have loved Matt Gaetz. I would have loved Rudy Giuliani. That would be fantastic. Nothing would make the morally superior, wonderful, highly educated liberal Democrats melt down more than Giuliani as part of Trump's cabinet, which I think he should be. One of the ways we can go on with defamation cases, but it's like they've lied and defamed Trump. They've engaged in libel and defamation for 8 years. And they get away with it because they say, well, it was a government story. The government was a part of it. And but God forbid Trump or Giuliani say something that oh my God, $10 trillion. They'll lose the lawsuit, especially if it's in a blue state or blue city. But the point is, Pam Bondi is, the reason I'm showing you these interviews from 4 years ago is that you see how passionate she is defending Trump. She's been defending Trump for years and years and years, and defending him like Matt Gaetz and others. So, I mean, she's a very good pick. Very, very good pick. And I think Matt Gaetz was chosen simply to kind of like fake out the media.
We just talked about. So, as to the Republicans, we are more unified than ever. I have never seen
John Durham is doing, and yet they continue to just push forward on impeachment.
Well, Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, Nancy Pelosi, they are dead set on impeaching the president. And they don't care. As we know, Nadler's been saying this for years. Before the president took office, they wanted to impeach him. Everything the president said is completely accurate. We stand by all that. Adam Schiff needs to tread very carefully on what he's saying in these ridiculous accusations without fact to back it up against the president of the
Let's listen to that again.
United States. Right.
That the waters are continuing to be muddied in every instance where we know we're getting an IG report or we're getting information about this criminal investigation that John Durham is doing, and yet they continue to just push forward on impeachment.
Well, Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, Nancy Pelosi, they are dead set on impeaching the president. And they don't care. As we know, Nadler's been saying this for years. Before the president took office, they wanted to impeach him. Everything the president said is completely accurate. We stand by all that. Adam Schiff needs to tread very carefully on what he's saying in these ridiculous accusations without fact to back it up against the president of the United States. Because we know the two people on that call said nothing happened. And we know that. Nothing happened.
How is this going to play out for 2020? I mean, all these people are up for elect Donald Trump.
So this is 4 years, more than that, 5 years later. You fast forward, and Pam Bondi is now the Attorney General. So Maria Bartiromo is fantastic, has been interviewing Pam Bondi for a long time now. I think it's, Pam Bondi was defending Trump in like 2016, 2017 also. So she's a fantastic pick, ladies and gentlemen.
Trump picking a new attorney general nominee just hours after Matt Gaetz' decision to withdraw. Fox News Digital's political correspondent Brooke Singman live now with the very latest. Brooke, good morning.
Good morning, Maria. That's right. So President Trump appointing Pam Bondi to serve as attorney general. Bondi served as Florida's attorney general from 2011 to 2019, and she was the state's first female attorney general. Before that, she served 18 years as a prosecutor. Now, as Florida AG, Bondi led efforts to combat opioid abuse and end human trafficking. She also helped recover more than $1 billion in consumer protection, antitrust, and false claims matters. Bondi is a longtime Trump ally, and the president says she will, quote, refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again. She is smart and tough and is an America First fighter who will do a terrific job as attorney general. Now, this nomination comes just hours after Trump's first pick, Congressman Matt Gaetz, dropped out of the running. This after Trump reportedly told him he did not have the votes to get confirmed. Gaetz congratulating Bondi, saying, quote, Pam and I worked closely together when she was Florida's AG, and I chaired criminal justice in the State House. She is a proven litigator and an inspiring leader and champion for all. Meanwhile, Oregon Congresswoman Lori Chavez-Derrimer is reportedly being considered for labor secretary. She met with the president at Mar-a-Lago this week, and she also has support from Teamsters president Sean O'Brien. Trump will also name new leadership for the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Now, SEC will resign. Is also reportedly.
Good morning, Maria. Yes, The Spectator described Trump's cabinet nomination process as musical chairs. And I think the sweet spot for Treasury Secretary for him is, as The Spectator said, someone who loves tariffs but will calm markets. And that's a compromise he has to look for. You know, Warsh seems like a very competent pick, but in 2018, he wrote against protectionism in the Wall Street Journal. And he warned.
So you fast forward 5 years or so, and Pam Bondi is going from defending Trump in 2019, right before the first impeachment, to his attorney general. The great thing, see, Pam Bondi, if it's just Trump's attorney general and the intel agencies are the same, that doesn't help Trump. But now you have John Ratcliffe, who also defended Trump and also talked about people like the California senator. So let's listen to John Ratcliffe, who will work alongside. This is the first time Trump has had an attorney general, a central intelligence chief. Like, Democrats media used to say, oh, it's his administration. His first tenure was not really his administration. It sounds bizarre to say, but they all basically betrayed him in some way, shape, or form. Most of the people, not all, but most of the people that he nominated the first time around betrayed him because they weren't loyal to him. Or I should say they weren't loyal to his vision. Merrick Garland was very loyal to Biden, so much so that he withheld evidence from congressional Republicans after being subpoenaed, as did Eric Holder, and both Democratic attorney generals were held in contempt of Congress. How much more loyal can you get? How much more of a loyalist can you get than an attorney general who's held in contempt of Congress that withholds information from the opposing side? So if Pam Bondi isn't held in contempt of Congress, she'll already be infinitely better than Merrick Garland.
Ahead and tell me about the reaction you've been seeing from that IG report.
Yeah, as you said, the vote will be on Wednesday, despite what a Democratic scholar called the fastest, thinnest, weakest impeachment in U.S. history. That's the direction that we're going. The real question is, how big will the jailbreak be by the Democrats? We've already seen one Democrat apparently switching parties over it, another saying he's going to vote against it. And so really the question is how many more before Wednesday's vote? And the reason for that, Maria, is because the Democrats have made the mistake of staking the credibility of all this on Adam Schiff. The person that they put in charge of this investigation turns out is the one that helped start it by meeting with a person who walked out of Adam Schiff's office and became the whistleblower. And at the very same time that that's happening, as you mentioned, now there's an Inspector General report that comes out that says During the last impeachment hoax, the Trump-Russia one, Adam Schiff repeatedly made false statements to the American people about the FBI's actions. And so I think, that's what's happening, and that's why.
So if he made false statements, is that against the law? I mean, you tell me in the chat, in the live chat, if California senator made false statements to the country for 8 years, he was defending Clinton's servers. So Adam Schiff Democrats should actually build a statue for Adam Schiff. Nobody has been more loyal to the Democratic Party than this man. I mean, you could say like Pelosi, but Pelosi wielded more power and influence. Schiff was like the number one, along with maybe a couple other people, going up against Trump. And so Democrats, he's now senator. Okay, but the thing is, was it against the law for him to lie? That's the question. Did he break any federal statutes? Maybe he didn't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe President Trump is wrong. Maybe Pam Bondi and John Ratcliffe are wrong. Maybe Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan and Ted Cruz and everyone is wrong. Maybe Adam Schiff didn't break the law. But if you continually say that you have evidence, that the federal government has evidence that somebody is an incoming operative of another country, and you help create this McCarthy-era Red Scare, House of Un-American Committees type of, political environment, it's likely that there are statutes that you broke. I think 18 U.S. Code 371 is one. No, is it 18 U.S. Code 371? The statute that says you cannot use your government post or government position for personal or political reasons, or for you can't deceive the country using your government position, which is what they tried to level against Trump in D.C.
The Democrats have been rushing to keep this from unraveling and keep their folks in line, and they're having a really hard time to do that. I wouldn't want to bank my political future on Adam Schiff's credibility, but they've made that mistake.
Yeah, so, going back to the IG report, Adam Schiff was certainly out and about a lot throughout the last 3 years saying that there is collusion in plain sight. And now we get the IG report and we actually see the misconduct and what they call errors, fraud, whatever you want to call it. What is your reaction to what you learned from Michael Horowitz?
Well, it wasn't just that Adam Schiff was out and about. He put out a report that said there was no FISA abuse by the FBI. That was false. He said that the FBI didn't fail to turn over exculpatory information. That was false. He said that the Steele dossier was not a central part of the FISA applications against Carter Page. That was false. The Inspector General's report, the findings in there detail all of that. It's an indictment of the things that Adam Schiff was saying. It was an indictment of Jim Comey's leadership at the FBI. The biggest takeaway for people out there, Maria, is that what the Inspector General's findings very clearly delineates is, even if you concede, and I don't, but even if you concede that there was a predicate to start this, there was no predicate to continue a counterintelligence investigation against the President of the United States. They had to do it by making those false representations to the FISA court.
Yeah.
So let's listen to all the false statements or topics linked to the California senator.
Failed to turn over exculpatory information. That was false. He said that the Steele dossier was not a central part of the FISA applications against Carter Page. That was false. The Inspector General's report, the findings in there detail all of that. It's an indictment of the things that Adam Schiff was saying. It was an indictment of Jim Comey's leadership at the FBI. The biggest takeaway for people out there, Maria, is that what the Inspector General's findings very clearly delineates is, even if you concede, and I don't, but even if you concede that there was a predicate to start this, there was no predicate to continue a counterintelligence investigation against the President of the United States. They had to do it by making those false representations to the FISA court.
Yeah, and we're going to speak to Devin Nunes shortly. Of course, you referred to the Nunes memo back in 2018, February.
The second that Trump's attorney general indicts a number of Democrats, leading Democrats, okay? The second that he does, the Democratic Party will try to fundraise and they'll try to circle the wagons. They're not going to get the support from their side of the electorate. We'll leave it at that. They're not going to get the support that they think they will. Because even Democrats are tired of the same tactics that led to a monumental defeat. Harris spent $1.5 billion and lost that money. The DNC has now laid off people right before Thanksgiving and Christmas. I think like half or 2/3 or a good part of the DNC workforce was laid off without any severance pay. Right before Christmas. I mean, that's how Democrats do it. That's how they do it. They're going to try to fundraise off of, oh my God, Trump is an authoritarian. They're not. The average voter who voted for Harris isn't really going to buy it. The feeling among that political side is they've had enough. They don't like Trump, but the average Democratic voter is tired of the things that led them to losing. They don't exactly know what, they think like the apoplectic hysterical meltdown is like normal. They still don't really get it. They still don't really know. But once they start getting indicted, the DNC, the Democrats are going to want a kind of grassroots circling of the wagons. That's not going to happen. See, when Trump could fundraise off being indicted because he was innocent. Democrats know very well they set up and framed Trump. So they're not going to it's like, okay, now great. Now we have to deal with this. Now we have to deal with potentially defending Democratic politicians who lied about setting up and framing Trump. Oh, great.
Of 18, where he wrote out all of the misconduct that took place by that cabal of people. And of course, then Schiff came out with that correcting the record memo, which we know now was wrong, just flat out wrong. You mentioned some of the wrongdoing. One of them, as we know from the Michael Horowitz report, is an altering of a document by an FBI lawyer. Tell me about that, and where are you expecting accountability, Congressman?
Well, as the Inspector General's findings outline, what are referred to as errors and omissions are false statements, misrepresentations, destruction or alteration of documentary evidence. I mean, what you have are FBI lawyers literally changing evidence to make false representations to the court to continue this counterintelligence investigation against the president. So, it details. Now, everyone's entitled to a presumption of innocence. Democrats never want to give one to Donald Trump. But the Inspector General's findings really outline what is criminal activity. I mean, we're talking about FBI lawyers who are depriving folks like Carter Page of their civil rights under color of law. Tampering with evidence, taking documents and making them say the opposite of what they really represent and certifying that to the court. Really terrible, and again, an indictment of Jim Comey's leadership at the FBI and of the things that the Democrats said to, again, most important point, to continue a counterintelligence investigation against the sitting president of the United States when there was no probable cause to continue it.
You're listening to one of the most powerful and influential men in the world. He's the Central Intelligence. I'm not saying the whole name of it for algorithmic, whatever, who knows. But he was John Brennan, who basically helped start this McCarthy era nonsense against Trump. That's the position. Now it's John Ratcliffe. You went from the most loyal ally of the Democratic Party to one of the more loyal people to Trump's political vision. See, Democrats think that like the average Trump voter is loyal to Trump. No, I like Trump because he's against military interventions, because we had relative peace throughout his 4 years. We had record low poverty with Trump. We had record highs in household median income. Interest rates, mortgage rates were not only less, they've doubled since Trump left office. Inflation has gone through the roof. That's why interest rates went up. But again, like, you tell this to the average Democratic voter or partisan, it's not even a concern. Their concern is Trump worked with another country, and he's mean, and he's an authoritarian. And now that's the new thing on the left. But also, one quick thing, the Inspector General report did not have access to a whole bunch of classified data. That's what John Ratcliffe, Pam Bondi can't do her job without John Ratcliffe helping her. Okay? So Pam, and then you have the great, amazing Tulsi Gabbard as ODNI. And then you have two positions, the Federal Bureau of Investigation director, that we're all waiting for to see, who he replaces the current one with. So this is not, they're going to indict a number of top Democrats. And the difference between the Durham probe and the next special counsel is that the Durham probe had access to nothing. Durham did not have access to all the information he needed to really secure convictions. Now you have John Ratcliffe, who can declassify anything he wants.
That they started by making 7 errors and omissions that were misrepresentations, alterations of evidence, and then added 10 more to continue it along the way. I don't think the American people can really appreciate the damage that was done to the FBI during Jim Comey's tenure there.
So are you saying that there was criminal activity against Carter Page and against a sitting president?
Certainly, I would love to be Carter Page's lawyer. His civil rights, as alleged in the findings by Inspector General Horowitz, very clearly delineate that. But there were actions taken by individuals at the FBI to continue a counterintelligence investigation against a sitting president, against his campaign, and then against his presidency. And, so these are findings made by Inspector General Horowitz that I would now expect John Durham to look at from a criminal standpoint. I'm not saying that I'm not making allegations that anyone should be convicted. These are allegations. Everyone's entitled to a presumption of innocence. But do I think that there's activity detailed in this that should be investigated and prosecuted? Absolutely.
So do you think people could go to jail? Could people go to jail over this?
Absolutely. I mean, what would an aggressive prosecutor do with this if the folks involved were George Papadopoulos?
Andrew, thank you for the kind words. Everybody, thank you for the kind words.
Or Michael Flynn. The findings of fact made by the Inspector General here, certainly detail potential criminal activity which would send people away for a long period of time.
All right. We're also going to talk with George Papadopoulos coming up so he can tell us exactly some of the conversations he had, which now we know are exculpatory evidence, which were not given to the FISA court. We're also looking at when the investigation actually started, because as you know, the FBI tells us that the investigation, the counterintelligence investigation began in July of 16, but there were informants running into campaign people as early as March of 16. So we'll speak with Michael Mukasey coming up. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
You bet.
So you might say, well, why are we listening to John Ratcliffe when this is about Pam Bondi starting a special counsel? Like I said, Pam Bondi will need John Ratcliffe very likely to declassify information or to give information on motive. What Democrats will say is we were just thinking of national security, but it wasn't national security. Trump was not working for another country. You'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe that. So it wasn't national security. Okay, it was a deliberate attempt at weakening and destroying his presidency. And it only led to media being at an all-time low now. It led to the end of cable, liberal cable news. MSNBC is being spun off. Elon Musk will probably purchase it. I think he will purchase MSNBC. And, I mean, the only thing Democrats had was media. Now they're leaving X, they're going to what, Blue Sky? And it's like that the only thing they had really was Twitter for many, many years. And what Twitter would do is shape a narrative by silencing and excommunicating and shunning, banishing any dissent. So they carefully crafted this narrative. Then, for example, we couldn't talk about Hunter's laptop. Started on Twitter. Twitter banned the New York Post. Then every other platform followed suit. Okay, so Democrats were able to carefully craft a narrative by lying and censoring and preventing negative information about Hunter's laptop, for example. And they did that with Twitter, which affected social media algorithms. They don't have Twitter now. It's X. Elon Musk owns it. But then they did it with MSNBC and CNN and the Washington Post and the New York Times, the Atlantic. But nobody cares what any of these publications say anymore. Trust in media is an all-time low. Okay, it's 30% of Americans trust. Do you think 30% of Americans trust media? And the chat, do you think it's really 30%? Okay, I don't think it's 30% of Americans. I think it's less than that, probably 20. And of the 20%, almost all the 20% is the liberal Democrats who say, "Oh my God, look, everything I believe is being reinforced by CNN." It's like, well, that's because CNN is an extension of the Democratic Party, as is the MSNBC, the Atlantic, Mother Jones, The Nation, Vanity Fair, Esquire, Rolling Stone. It used to be BuzzFeed and Vice. But, I mean, so how many liberal publications can you read saying the same thing about Trump and Republicans? Okay? They say the same thing all the time. But now nobody trusts it. So what do Democrats have? They had public relations. Nobody cares about media anymore. They don't trust media. They had Hollywood. Nobody really cares about Hollywood anymore. Can you name the top 3 or 4 top celebrities now? Nobody can. Nobody cares. Okay, music industry, we see what's happening with that. It's descending into madness. Okay. What do they have now? They don't have a value system. They were talking about Medicare for all. Now they wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Okay, they're not running on the Green New Deal. So what do they have? The only thing they still have is they despise Trump. But that's not winning. That's not a recipe or a formula for victory. So what do they have? That they want to stop endless wars. That's Trump's. That's what Trump's vision is about. They want to make American energy, oil and gas companies more, make it easier for them to supply energy to the U.S. That's what Trump is doing. What do they have now? They have nothing. They have these very fringe or liberal idea topics, or I should say there's certain core tenets that don't resonate to economic growth. And we'll leave it at that.
Scheduled for early December. But one thing that I noticed this past week, are you guys not under oath in Congress in that room? For example, Adam Schiff, you've said that you want Adam Schiff to come down and testify under oath. Does that mean that what we're hearing from Adam Schiff in these public hearings, he's not under oath? He can say whatever he wants?
Yeah, he's not sworn in as a witness as we preside over these hearings, or he presides over these hearings. Much of what he is saying to the American people is just not true. And I know it's not true. We know that it's not true. We'd like him to testify. I think Congressman Collins is going to ask for that when the House Intelligence Committee sends a report to the Judiciary Committee.
Right.
I doubt that Chairman Nadler is going to allow that. This,
Okay.
as you used the word, railroaded this through. I don't think they're going to allow that. They should. And I think that's just unfortunate, but it's another reason why this is going to be dead on arrival in the Senate. The most important witnesses, including Adam Schiff, are not going to be testifying.
I'm going to speak with Congressman Doug Collins in a few minutes, and I'm going to ask him about that. But it struck me because I guess that's why he could say, well, we haven't seen the whistleblower, we don't know who the whistleblower is, and then a couple of weeks later we find out, oh, well, actually, no, my staff did meet with the whistleblower. He doesn't get in trouble for that because he...
There's also the issue of campaign finance. Like, how many directors or writers or producers or staff of Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert or Seth Meyers, how many of these people associated with those shows directly communicate with Democrats every day, week, month, year? Okay, we know that what was it, Colbert? We know that a couple of staffers were found trespassing in the Capitol because they were doing a show. Okay, but the point is, if you're providing free advertising every single day to the Democratic Party, you're giving them a donation. Okay, you're giving them free advertising, which amounts to a donation. And that's against campaign finance law if there's coordination. It's not free speech if there's coordination. That's the point. You're not protected under free speech if you're giving a political party a platform every single day for 8 years, and you're colluding or coordinating with them. And so, if the Democratic Party is coordinating with witnesses, and so it's like this is a complete theatrical performance. That's why Democrats are so closely aligned with Hollywood. They're both. The Democratic primary is completely a theatrical performance. That doesn't even exist. Okay.
He can say what he wants because he's not under oath. Just want to make that clear. The IG report, Congressman, when do you expect it? You've been studying the origins of the Russia probe. You and your colleagues now for 3 years have done a great job in terms of exposing the wrongdoing that took place in 2016. What should we expect from this report?
Well, I do think it's going to be the first week of December. Bill Barr said it's imminent. I think, I would love it if it came out sooner because, to your earlier point, Maria, the Democrats are racing to get through this impeachment as quickly as possible. That's why we have 8 witnesses and 5 hearings this week, and we're not doing any of the work, is because they know that Inspector General report is likely to be damning about the origins of the 2016 investigation into the Trump campaign, the role that the Obama-Biden administration officials played in that. Look, we know this. The report is supposedly 500 pages. It doesn't take an Inspector General 500 pages to say that everything was done correctly and properly. And I can't tell you everything that's in there, but what I can tell you is that I know that the Inspector General is going to have to find that there were things that were done wrong, that there was exculpatory information that wasn't provided to the FISA court. And I think it's going to be an indictment of Adam Schiff, who has written his own FISA rebuttal memo, if you remember, back in January of 2018, saying, how dare Republicans criticize people like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and Andy McCabe and Bruce Orr, who have done nothing wrong. I think that the IG report's going to find that there were problems in the FISA application process, and they don't want that to come out until after they've impeached the president.
Wow.
So everybody he mentioned, and there's a whole bunch of other people, all he has to do, and President Trump is brilliant. I mean, this man, they could not stop Trump, and they threw everything they had at Trump, and at the end of the day, he has a new Central Intelligence chief, he has a new Attorney General, he'll have a new bureau director and others. They're going to find information, exculpatory evidence. Let's just say, forget the word declassifying. They'll find exculpatory evidence that was withheld. They'll find evidence that proves Trump was innocent from day one. They'll find evidence of motive. Game, set, match. It's game over. It's like in Aliens 2. Game over, man. Game over. All you have to do, if you're John Ratcliffe, it's very easy, and he's a lot smarter than me, a lot more intelligent, a lot more knowledgeable than I'll ever be regarding government, is find the motive, which is easy. And you find that through text messages, emails, classified information that should never have been classified. They classify information to hide it from the public. Oftentimes. Okay. President Obama was saying there's a short on this channel where a lot of classified data you could just find in the newspaper when he was trying to defend Hillary Clinton. Oh yeah, it's classified. It's not really classified. So there's classified and there's classified. So anyway, the point is all of that nonsense regarding it's national security. Well, that's the issue here. There's going to be a special counsel, ladies and gentlemen. And if you heard it here first, fantastic. There will be a special counsel, probably numerous special counsels. And it's going to be a very amusing, fun 4 years. Hit subscribe to this channel. God bless you all. Have a wonderful, safe Thanksgiving. Be safe on the roads, ladies and gentlemen. And to my international viewers, thank you. Paul Bartlett in Australia, thank you so very, very much. God bless you all.